Gerrymandering is the root of everything wrong in American politics. True or false? If you ask both Republicans and Democrats, many will say true. I mean, there's a reason the Supreme Court is taking up multiple cases challenging it, right? But what if the problem isn't gerrymandering itself? It's how it's done. This is the earmuff district. It looks like earmuffs. That's Nick Stephanopoulos. He's a law professor at the University of Chicago. He loves the earmuff district, so much he even put it on his wedding cake. To him, these weird squiggly lines represent something positive.
The reason the district is shaped that way is because it's trying to capture two different pockets of Latino voters in Chicago, but it's also trying to respect a Black population in between those Latino pockets that's part of a different Black majority district. It makes the point that not all funnily shaped districts are bad.
Drawing districts to protect the minority vote is the kind of gerrymandering that was envisioned in the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Supreme Court has regularly upheld gerrymandered maps, especially when they provide representation for Black voters. It's thrown out maps doing the opposite, like in North Carolina.
A bizarre district shape is a good clue that something was going on other than just a desire to draw pretty districts. But you don't know what that something is until you dig a little deeper. That something can sometimes be nefarious, partisan gain or protecting all the incumbents. But other times it can be a totally innocent purpose, like minority representation, partisan fairness, or reflecting the communities that people live in.
Many states require districts to recognize communities of interest. In other words, people who share a culture, or ethnicity, or even economic interests. So if gerrymandering can be used for good, why do people say they hate it? Simple. It can easily be abused. Experts say some Republican legislatures, like in North Carolina and Virginia, manipulated this type of redistricting in their favor. And it's not just about race. Cue Wisconsin, specifically Gill v. Whitford, one of two partisan gerrymandering cases the Supreme Court has taken up. Our friend Nick, the guy who loved gerrymandering so much he put it on a cake, he's one of the lawyers trying to throw out the Wisconsin map. Republicans skewed their maps so much that in 2012, they won 47% of the vote, but 62% of the seats in the State House. Wait, what? Cue the efficiency gap. It helps show how skewed a map is in favor of one party over another. This is how it works. Imagine a small state of 50 people, with 20 people from Party A and 30 people from Party B. Party A wants to skew the map in its favor. It packs a bunch of Party B's voters into a few districts, while spreading out or cracking Party A's voters across others, giving them the edge unfairly. The wasted votes would include any person stuck in a district where their vote was designed to not matter. Funny enough, this type of partisan gerrymandering is actually bipartisan. There's a second case at the Supreme Court, Benesic v. Lamone, which is about Democrats doing the same thing in Maryland. But the efficiency gap only gives us a way to measure partisanship. And that's about it. There's no line telling us where the maps go too far, and conservatives on the bench seem uncomfortable with drawing that line. So how do we decide how partisan is too partisan? That's what the Supreme Court needs to decide, and that decision could have widespread impacts on the upcoming midterm elections and beyond.
So much better than litigation, I think, is just not involving the politicians in the line drawing in the first place. They have no business drawing the lines for districts that they're going to then run in themselves. It's a classic conflict of interest.
States like California and Washington already do a bit of what Nick just said. They let nonpartisan commissions draw their maps. And Colorado, it lets the leaders of each party choose appointments, who then hash out the maps together. That's great, but as long as demographics change and our voting system is based on maps, the United States will never perfect its election system, but we can always try to make it better. That might mean squiggly districts that look like earmuffs, but that's okay. In the end, it's not about what the districts look like, it's about who's in them.